Welcome to Alasquatch, the show all about Bigfoot in the great state of Alaska. I'm your host, Beans Baxter. So lace up your boots, zip up your coat, and come with me on an adventure as we explore all things cryptid in the last frontier. Hey guys, thanks for tuning in to the latest episode of Alasquatch. Hope everybody's doing well out there. I know we're starting to get into the swing of things. Summer is starting to show up. We've still got some chilly weather and some clouds here, but we've had a few sunny days. Hoping to get out this weekend and maybe do a little bit of camping and squatching and see how that goes. And be my first real trip of overnight trip anyway of the year. And I wanted to let you guys know in advance, we're creeping up on the Medellin Falls Bigfoot Festival here coming up. I'm going to be taking off in the next couple of weeks to head to the great state of Washington to, make my appearance there and hang out with my fellow Bigfooters. And I just wanted to let you guys know it's going to be some dark weeks for the show. We're not going to be dropping any episodes probably. Hopefully, I'll be able to sit down with some people at Medellin Falls and maybe record some stuff, some interviews or episode or two. But more than likely, that stuff won't be dropping until I get back. And as some of you know, I'm taking a little time after the conference to do some squatching in that area. So it might be a little bit before I get to drop a new episode. So just be patient. I haven't went anywhere. I did go somewhere. I haven't quit the show. I'm just taking a little break and hopefully getting some more content for the show and the YouTube channel. And I wanted to put a bug in everybody's ear about YouTube. I'm not real familiar with YouTube or how it works. And I put some videos up there to kind of support the podcast and vice versa, and give people kind of a visual representation of some, like there's the video of me walking around in Area A, and I think that goes along well with the podcast that Rob Roy and I did on Area A. It gives people an idea. Okay, we can go and watch this video and see what they're talking about, like see what visually what kind of terrain they're talking about, what kind of area. And I think it works out pretty well. Well, I was on there the other day, and I just happened to click on one of my videos, and before the video, it played an ad, and I thought, well, that's kind of weird because I'm not, my YouTube page isn't monetized. I don't have it set up to get money, and I thought, well, who's getting that money? Who's getting paid? Somebody's getting money for showing an ad on my video, and I did a little research, and it kind of irritated me because I found out that basically if you have less than 1,000 subscribers, you can't monetize your page basically, and YouTube can just do whatever they want. If they want to show ads on your page, they can. And that really irked me because, I don't like the idea that somebody's profiting from something that I did. So if you guys have a YouTube account, if you do me a favor and just go over and subscribe to the Alasquatch YouTube channel, I'm gonna try and get up there to that 1,000 subscriber threshold so I can monetize my page, because it just irritates me that somebody is getting money for something I did and it's not me. I don't know. I think that's a reasonable feeling to have. I know people get really touchy when it comes to stuff like that and money, and he's trying to make money off of Bigfoot. And you know what? I am, but at least I'm trying to do it honestly. So anyway, if you guys could please just run over there and give me a subscription. Click that subscribe button on YouTube. I don't normally ask for stuff like that, but that information just really irked me, and the fact that they're showing ads on my channel, and I didn't say they could approve it, and then again, I'm not getting paid for it. I just don't think that's right. I just don't morally think it's right. So I'm going to try and get to that threshold where I can monetize the page. And after a reasonable amount of time, if that doesn't happen, I might try something else, try to go to another platform or something, although YouTube is pretty much where it's at. There's not a lot of other page or video servers that that people use. So we'll see. It just really irritates me that somebody else is profiting off of the stuff that I've done, and it's not me. I mean, not even a little bit, you know. I mean, anyway, also I've signed up that possibly there may be ads showing up on the podcast. I know that's not a great thing. I know nobody really likes that, but I'm hoping that you know, like I said, I'm going to be squatching some down in Washington and places like that, and hopefully setting up more trips. And it would be nice if I could get a little flow of income to help me out with stuff like that, with travel costs and equipment. I'm, you know, not one of these guys that's going to start a GoFundMe and ask for money just because. If I'm going to do anything like that, I'm going to do some kind of Kickstarter or something where, you know, people get a product for the money they give. And I'm just not at that point yet. So I'm going to try some of the advertising venues that my podcast server are offering and see if that goes anywhere. I don't know. I don't even know if they're going to do it. I just basically allowed them to do it, and then I guess they decide to match me up with an advertiser or something. So just you know, bear with me, and if the ads just get to be too much, let me know. I can scale them back a little bit or add more. I think at my discretion. I think that's how it works. So just keep an ear out for that. If the ads get to be too overwhelming, just let me know. I can see if I can change them to maybe just the beginning and the end of the podcast, something like that. Like I said, I don't even know when they're going to show up or if they're going to show up. It was just something that was offered to me through the podcast server, and I decided to take advantage of it. And speaking of making money, I want you guys to know my book, Abandoned, The History and Horror of Port Chatham, is still available. It's available at a lot of locations here in Alaska. It's available at the Homer Bookstore. If you're traveling through Alaska, find yourself in Homer, you can swing in there and purchase an autographed copy. It's also available in Soldotna at Inkwell's Bookshop. If you don't make it down into Homer, maybe you want to stop by Soldotna and fish in the Kenai River. It's also available at the Bigfoot Art Gallery in Palmer. Rob Roy is selling it for me. In fact, I just put a fresh shipment of books in the mail for him today. You should be getting them in a day or two. And all those copies that are available at the brick and mortar stores are autographed, so you can swing by and pick those up. And if you're cruising through the southeast of Alaska this year, this is cruise season, and you find yourself in Skagway, you can stop by the Skagway News Depot and Books, and they're also carrying it as well. Hopefully you can get in there and pick up an autographed copy. If you cannot get to any of those venues, and you can't make it to the Medellin Falls Conference this month in June, you can buy an autographed copy from the website, alaskwatchpodcast.com, and I will get that signed and sent out to you as soon as I can. Also, I wanted to make mention, if there's anything in the Alaskwatch store that you guys have had your eyes on, we've got some pretty nice shot glasses and some knives and some stickers and stuff like that in there. If there's anything in there that you guys have kind of had your eye on and you've been thinking about ordering and you've kind of been putting it off, now might be the time to get that order in, because we're going to take a lot of that stuff down to Medellin Falls with us, and I don't expect to bring a whole lot of it back. So if you guys have had your eye on something and you want to pick it up, here in the next week would probably be a good time to get that order in and ensure that you get one of those items, especially the pocket knives. Those are some pretty nice knives. Everybody that's got one's been pretty happy with it. So if you see something in there that you want, you might want to pick it up now, because unless you're going to the Medellin Falls, in which case you could pick one up in person. But if you see it on the podcast website and you want to pick one of those up, you might want to put that order in now, because I don't think I'm going to be bringing a whole lot of those back, and I have no idea if or when I'll be able to get more. So those things are pretty limited edition. All right, with all that said, I think let's get into the meat and potatoes of today's episode. I wanted to talk about one of the newest Bigfoot documentaries to be hitting the scene. This is actually going to be available for wide consumption on June 8th. So here, let's see, what is June 8th? That is next Tuesday, which you may be listening to this. It may already be after June 8th. So you can just swing through and pick one up somewhere. but I'm talking about Small Town Monsters on the Trail of Bigfoot: The Journey. Have a Blu-ray copy that I've been perusing, and I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, Beans, it's not June 8th. How do you have a copy of this film? Obviously, you're thinking it's because of my Bigfoot influencer status in the community, correct? No, that is not the case. I have this because I was one of the smart people that invested in the Small Town Monsters Kickstarter earlier this year. And every year around, I think it's February or so, they always launch a Kickstarter for the coming year. And it's just a great deal. I mean, I think as far as like bang for your buck in the Bigfoot or cryptozoology world goes, you can't go wrong with it. They always produce really good stuff, and you can depending on what level or tier you want to sign up for, you always get quality products. You're funding their production, but you're also getting a product in return. So I'm a big fan of that. I'm a big fan of getting stuff when I pay money, because that's how it's supposed to work. So if you're not familiar with Small Town Monsters, Seth Breedlove started that company a few years ago, and he's put out a lot of cryptid-themed documentaries, and pretty much especially all the Bigfoot ones, I've really enjoyed. There's been a few that were kind of out of my wheelhouse, and I've probably only watched once or so. The last one that he released about UFOs, I can't remember if it was Dark Skies. Maybe that's the upcoming one. Terror in the Sky. I don't remember which one. It was one of the last UFO series he did. I think it was on the Trail of UFOs. That one didn't so much float my boat. But I'm just not really into UFOs that much. So I didn't quite enjoy that one, probably as a lot of more people that were more entrenched in the UFO community did. But everything else that he's put out, I've been a big fan of. He's got some upcoming stuff that I just can't wait to see. He has one upcoming later this year about the Rougarou, which is kind of like a werewolf type creature down in Louisiana. And really looking forward to that. I think that's going to be a really cool documentary. And, I consider myself pretty well versed and read on a lot of these cryptids and a lot of the things that, a lot of their backstories and the history behind them. And it seems like every production that he does, everything that he puts out, there's some little nugget of information. There's always something in there that I've never heard before, or something new for me to learn. And that really, just to me, makes it worth the money that I spend on a Kickstarter to get the movies that he makes. And this year, due to my changing financial situation with me leaving law enforcement, I had to scale it back just a little bit. I couldn't quite give as much as I usually give, and but they've got a bunch of different tiers, levels that you can give, and I made sure and signed up for one where I got all the upcoming releases, and I like to get physical copies of them so that I can collect them. So it works out. There's something for you on there. No matter what your financial situation is, he's got tiers that just about everybody can afford, and get access to the stuff he puts out. So enough about that. Let's get into the actual the movie. It's a documentary. It's about an hour and a half long, and I think initially when he was coming up with the idea for this installment of On the Trail of Bigfoot, I think he had kind of wanted to do a little bit more further away. He wanted to travel a little bit more. I think there was even maybe some talk of him coming up here to Alaska. But unfortunately, this was filmed last year when the pandemic was in full swing, and they do address that a little bit in the documentary. They kind of talk about the pandemic and its effect on limiting people and their travel and getting out. And it's done, very, I would say non-biased. I mean, he does talk about the difficulties of, the guy's a filmmaker. He likes to go places to film movies. And basically this really put a kink in his hose as far as his ability to do that. So, I mean, it is portrayed slightly in a negative light, but justifiably so. I mean, the guy, makes his movies by traveling around and going to different places, and it really kind of limited him as to where he could go and what he could do for this installment. So, because when he first kind of mentioned it in the documentary, I thought, man, he's kind of dating this. It's like in 4 or 5 years when I sat down to watch this and he starts talking about the pandemic, I'm going to be like, man, this seems old or something. But, I just, after I thought about it for a little bit, I'm like, well, I mean, it's true. He's documenting what is going on, and that's literally what he's supposed to be doing. So, I thought at first it was kind of a strange choice, but after I got into it a little bit, I decided like, yeah, that's probably the right thing to do. And that being said, I think this installment, it's a little bit more personal maybe than some of the others. It actually follows them as they go on a 5-day adventure into the New England area, the Adirondacks. And that's an area of the U.S. In fact, geography is probably one of my weak points when it comes to stuff like that. And that's one of the areas of the U.S. that, one, I've never really spent a whole lot of time in, and two, I'm just not that familiar with. Never really had that much of a interest in that part of the area, except for the cryptid sightings and stuff like that. In fact, most of my geographical knowledge of the New England area comes from cryptid stories and sightings. So I thought they did a really good job of explaining where they were, and how it related to sightings and potential habitat for Bigfoot. And I really enjoyed a lot of the drone footage of the area. It kind of gives you an idea, because most people think of New York, they just think of New York City. And that's kind of it. It's kind of the same way with Alaska. How when people think of Alaska, they think of snow and igloos, and that's about it. There's nothing here, and it's kind of the opposite with New York. You think of New York, all you think of is New York City and a metropolis, and that's not necessarily the case. There is a lot of forest and acreage in New York State, that is. And he did a really good job of conveying that with a lot of the drone shots, a lot of the cinematography. Very beautiful. Really shows off the beauty of the Northeast and the Northeast forests. I really enjoyed the time that they spent in the field. So it felt like a better episode, or a good episode of Finding Bigfoot. And I know a lot of people are going to hear that and they're going to kind of groan, but it's just, so you're out in the field with these guys and they're going around, they're meeting up with local investigators who are taking them out, and they're spending time in the field with them, and they're telling them about historical accounts in the area, and the geography of the area and the habitat in the area. And I really enjoyed that aspect of it. They didn't spend a whole lot of time. Well, there's not really any wasted time. They're on the ground. They're, looking for Bigfoot, or talking about Bigfoot, spending time with people who look for Bigfoot, interviewing people who have seen Bigfoot. It is a very well put together documentary. And in parts, some of it kind of reminded me, when the first time I've watched it twice, and the first time I sat down and watched it, I was like, man, this really kind of reminds me of a video that Steven and I would do, or Extreme Expeditions would do. And then the second time I watched it, I didn't quite feel that way. And I felt it was probably a little bit better done, in that you really get a sense of the witnesses' testimony. They go around, they interview people in their homes. They talk about some sightings from that area that I've never heard of. Like I said, I usually consider myself pretty well versed and knowledgeable of cryptid sightings and stuff like that in that part of the world. But they were talking about sightings that I'd never heard of. They were interviewing people who had sightings I'd never heard of. And they spent some time in the field with Steve Coles, who, if you guys don't know, that's the Squatch detective. I don't know him that well. I think we're friends on Facebook. I don't think we've had a whole lot of interactions together, but I do enjoy him. And he has a show, I think, that comes on like once a week called like Squatch Detective TV or something. And I don't really get to sit down and watch that, but I know I'm a big fan of a lot of the work that he does with hoaxers and outing hoaxes and stuff like that. I think he does a pretty good job with that stuff, and it's something that I kind of admire. And I think that he does a pretty good job. He's had a sighting of his own, and I think that kind of sparked his passion for the subject. And he talks about that in the documentary. They go out in the field with him. You can tell by their time with him, he's very methodical. He's very attention to detail oriented. I think one of my favorite parts of the whole documentary is actually one of the slowest parts, but it's really important because they're in a tent with him and he spreads out this map and it's got all these little pins in it. Or I don't know if they're pins or marks or what, but they're sightings and activity that has been reported to him. And he shows you on the map literally how all these areas from like Whitehall, New York to down where they're at, how it's all kind of connected and how you can almost trace through the wooded areas the movement of Bigfoot. Almost like a migration pattern, or, I don't know if they're following food or warmer weather or what, but it's a really kind of impressive bit of deduction on his part, how he was able to take all that information and put it together, put it on the map, and kind of show movement. And it was really interesting and informative part of the documentary. Probably one of my favorite parts of the documentary, just how he can take that information and just kind of put it to use. And really enjoyed it. In fact, one of my favorite parts also, and there's not a lot of humor or side trails that are explored. It's pretty much, it's down to business and they get into it. But one of the things I thought was funny is they're out with Steve and his team, and there's some of the team members and they're walking around and they've got like these tactical vests on with like cameras and equipment and all kinds of stuff. And then you've got the Small Town Monsters guys walking around in like jeans and hoodies. And it was kind of funny. And I mean, who's to say, obviously the Small Town Monsters guys survived. They didn't need the tactical vests and all that stuff to survive. So who knows? I thought it was kind of a neat contrast to see the researchers out there with all their hut gear, and then the other guys out there with just their street clothes. And that's always kind of been a pet peeve of mine. When people will review Bigfoot stuff, videos and stuff like that, and they're always like ragging on, it doesn't matter what you wear, people will rag on you, because people have said about In Search of the Port Chatham Hairy Man, like, oh, those guys, they're out there, they went to an Army Navy surplus store, and now they're out there, like in playing soldier or playing Army Man or something. And that kind of stuff always bothers me, because I'm like, well, what am I supposed to wear? Am I supposed to go put on a 3-piece suit and walk around in the woods? I don't understand. Am I supposed to wear my my nice church slacks in the woods? I don't know what they want me to wear. But for me, I really took away a lot of information from the documentary. I think it's going to be really great for anybody that lives in the area that's a potential Bigfooter, for any potential New England squatchers. It's a great explanation of the activity and how it relates to the geography of the area, and can give you some ideas of maybe where to start as far as getting out there and doing your own research. There's also a lot of names in the documentary. A lot of researchers from that area are interviewed. So there's a lot of stuff on there to get anybody with an interest in the subject started. It can point you in a lot of new directions, or a lot of directions for newcomers, I should say, to go. and get started in their search in the New England area. I really enjoyed, in some ways, this really kind of felt like a follow-up to the Beast of Whitehall documentary, because it takes place, or parts of it take place in and around Whitehall. They explore some more recent Whitehall sightings and some stuff that they didn't either know about or they didn't quite get information for the Whitehall documentary. They actually go to an area where they believe the Beast of Whitehall, it was seen on Abear Road, but they think that it probably came from this one particular area near, I believe it's a reservoir. And actually, one of their night investigations is spent walking from that reservoir toward Abear Road. And it's kind of interesting. I believe that nothing really happens that evening, or that might be the evening that they do get like a wood knock, or a suspected wood knock on audio. So it's basically them, during the day, going around, performing interviews, talking to researchers, and they do like night investigation. That's kind of why it reminds me of Finding Bigfoot, I guess. But it was a good historical overview of the region and the sightings. There was a account that I had never heard of called the Kinderhook Creature, and I mean, it just doesn't ring a bell. Maybe I've heard of it, and I just kind of put it out of my mind, but I felt like I was hearing about it for the first time in this documentary. And there's actually a really cool scene where they go to someone's house who has some audio that they've actually captured on an old like cassette recorder, the big ones with the big buttons that you have to push down play and record at the same time, and one of those old like 1970s or 80s cassette recorder type machines, not like a boom box, but one of those little ones, about the size of a lunchbox or something. And that was pretty cool. And then there's some more accounts from. I'm sorry, there was a big pause in there. I'm looking at my notes. There's some more accounts by witnesses and researchers. There's a really interesting one that's told by ex-park ranger. I believe he's an ex-park ranger. And he tells about a really interesting encounter that he had while performing his duties. I don't want to spoil it for you. And then the very end of the documentary kind of culminates with them taking a helicopter ride. And they get in a helicopter and they're flying over the hills and the mountains of the Adirondacks in the Northeast. And, Seth narrates most of the film himself. And he's talking about just basically how easy it would be for something to live in there and remain hidden, which, most Bigfooters, if you've been in the subject for a while, you kind of, you understand that and that's why you're into the subject, is because you understand there's a good possibility that something could remain hidden out there. But I found it was a really good documentary. I think it would be really good for somebody that was just getting into the subject, that lived in that geographical area, in the New England area. So I think that would probably be a good jumping off point if you have somebody that lives in the area, they're interested in Bigfoot. Might be a good direction to point them. It's not quite as captivating, I would say.Maybe for younger viewers might think it's a little boring. But it's like I said, it's kind of like Finding Bigfoot, but not. There's not a whole lot of suspense or buildup. Not a lot of fake drama. They don't do they don't do a wood knock and then, what's that? And then cut to commercial, and then you got to wait for the commercial to finish before they come back and tell you it was just an owl. So I found it to be a really good, informative, honest documentary. And I really enjoyed it. And that being said, I think a lot of people are going to not like it because it's a good, honest documentary. And I just, it's kind of one of those things where, this is Bigfooting. You can't let the facts cloud the issue. I think the bottom line is that a lot of people don't want good, honest, informative documentaries. They want that false suspense and that fake, spookiness and stuff like that. I feel like that's what a lot of people want. Somebody left a review on Bigfoot encounters in the Pacific Northwest the other day, and basically was like, well, this is boring. Nothing happened. And, save your money and watch season 3, or wait for season 3 Expedition Bigfoot. And I kind of took that as a compliment, because I was like, well, if it's different than Expedition Bigfoot, then it must be good. So anyway, I kind of feel the same way about On the Trail of Bigfoot, The Journey. It is a really excellent, informative, and honest documentary that I think a lot of good people will enjoy. There's a lot of stuff in there, a lot of knowledge for those of us that don't know much about the New England side of Sasquatch. So check it out if you're so inclined. That will be out for purchase on June the 8th. I think it's available on iTunes and probably Vimeo, a few other places. I don't believe it's going to be on Amazon, because Amazon sucks, and they're not allowing new documentaries to be shown. We did get Bigfoot Encounters the Pacific Northwest on there, but I think after we snuck in, I think they kind of figured out what was going on, and they put a stop to it, because I don't think this one's going to make it in there on time. But anyway, check it out. If you like this sort of thing, I think you will certainly enjoy it. Be sure and keep an eye out for the Small Town Monsters next Kickstarter, which I assume will probably hit around the same time it does every year, probably around the January-February timeframe. And throw them some shekels. Check out their library, check out a few of their shows. I think some of their stuff is available on Amazon for you to watch, and some other avenues out there. I believe maybe, I want to say Tubi, which is a free TV app. They have some stuff out there that's available for free. So check it out, make a decision, and if you like it, support them. Throw on some shekels. Let them continue to keep doing what they're doing. I'm excited to see what they do in the future, and hope we can get those guys up here to Alaska someday, so I can show them around and take them around and show them, hopefully show them some Alaska Bigfoot. But anyway, I appreciate you guys listening. Again, I want to implore you to please head over to the Alasquatch YouTube page and give us hit the subscribe button, give us a subscription, bump my numbers up a little bit, so I don't feel like I'm being taken advantage of. And likewise, hit me up, and I will I'll subscribe back to you. That way I can help you out as well. Check us out on the Alasquatch Podcast webpage at alasquatchpodcast.com. And you can listen to us on pretty much any podcatcher. I think we're even on Spotify, iHeartRadio, and Amazon's podcast app, whatever that is. So anyway, guys, appreciate you listening, and keep following us, and I will hopefully be back next week. I'll give you guys a little bit better schedule for what's going to be going on around the Meddling Falls thing, and I can give you a good idea of when I will be back with some more Alasquatch goodness for your ear holes. All right, take care.